haven't done kitchen talk in a while. Let me see if I can get a stool that might help. Okay. Good afternoon. So today I'm going out. Later tonight I'm going out dancing with my roommates because one of my roommates' friends from Indiana is here, which I'm really excited about. But I'm really happy that she has one of her friends here. It makes me happy that she has someone over. Unfortunately, I was a little bit of a grump when she came in because I was like, I don't want to go anywhere and I'm feeling depressed. But coming out and being outside has really helped. But what I want to talk about today, I want to talk about something that my boss, which so I have two jobs, as you all know. So I have a bachelor, like a degree in social work and stuff, and that's my background. And but I've always thought about ministry and thinking about God and being present with people, and I feel that churches are the place to really be a place where all the doors are open and whoever needs something is welcome. So I feel like churches have that space. So I've always been curious about that. I didn't always feel that I could be welcome in a church all the time in the ways I would like and bring, God in the ways that I would like because of all these different backgrounds and cultural associations, and I feel like misogyny and sexism and all these different things. So I basically ended up working for as a social worker, and then I quit my job after I was in Boston, and then I started doing some odd jobs for about probably 2 years. And then I start the job that I'm at now. So I work with the boys after school, and in the summer I work for them full time. But in the morning, I work at a church, United Church of Christ Church, which is UCC Church, and I love them. Their values and beliefs are very in line with what I believe. The only thing is that sometimes many times actually, I feel out of place in the sense that I would really love to be somewhere where not just Christians, like the Christian message is preached, because I believe in Jesus in different ways in terms of, I used to think that Jesus was the Son of God and resurrected, and we're supposed to bow down to Jesus because of that, which could be true. Not that I'm discrediting that, but I don't think that Jesus, that meant, and that God is meaning for us to literally just sit and bow down as if that's the only way that we're supposed to worship. And when I read the Bible and I hear, and I'm also grew up in a Seventh-day Adventist background that was conservative, and I feel like a lot of Seventh-day Adventism has lost the roots and the core of the Adventist message, which was a movement of Sabbath keeping for the sake of humanity and for the sake of being there for the poor and the marginalized and those in need. And also not being in line with the powers of the Sunday keeping church, which was the Pope, and basically the way the church controlled things and had all these different controls on money and wealth and power. And a lot of people forget that the church had this really big role back in hundreds of years ago, but I still feel it's the same way of like when people need something, they would go to the church. If they need money, they go to the church. If they need property, they would go, so the church controlled a lot of things. And so I think a lot of Adventist people think about the church in that way, and they have that's why a lot of Adventist journals and reviews talk about the Pope, and they're always talking about Sunday law and stuff like that, but I don't think that they talk about it in the ways that they should. But anyways, it's just a chair. They have these little red stools here, and I'm using it. My shirt says, "Don't you worry about a thing. Every little thing is going to be all right." That's what it says. But I want to talk more about that. That was a long introduction. I'm sorry. So I met with my youth pastor, the youth pastor of the church that I work at. So there are 3 pastors: the senior pastor, the associate pastor, and the youth pastor. But even though she's a youth pastor, I still feel like they all kind of share the same roles because she deals a lot with the youth, and that's her specialty. But everyone at that church does deal with ministry in the same way. Like if there's something that is needed, everyone helps out. They all rotate baptisms, they rotate weddings, they rotate everything that they can. Pastoral work is really hard, but it's very fulfilling, and I'm very intrigued by it, which is why I'm grateful that I'm working there and I'm learning from these different ministers and different people on what ministry is really like, and kind of in this discernment process to figure out where I'm supposed to be. But she told me something really interesting because I went to her office and I just like word vomited everything that was in my mind. And she's like, I like your passion. I think that it's very valid. She was asking me about things that I'm passionate about, and I do worry a lot about the environment a lot, because if we, like I say, and I have said in other videos, and I've said to other people, if the environment is messed up and we don't have places to literally rest and be, and the air is not clean, then there's no reason for these different things that we are striving to, like Greta Thunberg, I think that's her last name. I don't know how it's pronounced, but she literally is a 16-year-old girl who stopped her education and is not in school because she's focused on the planet and the well-being of the environment. So there are two things I want to talk about. So my boss told me that I have to stop thinking about things being very far off, that are very far off, like the fact that in Delhi in India there is not clean air for some people, and that they have to wear these masks to make sure that people are breathing. And I think that's horrible. That's a tragedy. But my boss was like, try to do what you can where you are, and don't worry about those far off things. Not that they're not important, but that's not something that you can help because you are a part of the United States. And well, she wasn't actually disregarding that, but what she was basically saying is that if we think about the things that are far off and the things that are up here, and the things that are in front of us are neglected, it's hard it's hard to be present with the people in front of us and the things in front of us in our lives if we keep thinking about all these different things that are happening. And she's a Christian, and she believes in God, and she has, a degree that really studied theology and God. And she was saying, don't give up on love, because love is transformative. Love has always been the thing that has transformed this world. And it is working. It might be slow, but it's working. And love is always going to win. It's always going to conquer anything that's out there. But she also reminded me that, because I was telling her about this situation that I've been in for a while, and she said, everyone has a different definition of what love is. Some people think of love in a way that's unconditional, it has no boundaries, and that you give and give and give and give and give, and you don't receive that much. But that's not really love, because love has to be a two-way road. And she also reminded me that toxic ways, even though you can be loving towards someone, if something is toxic, you can still love it. But is it really love if it's toxic, if it's not facing the reality of life? If someone is, like example, in an abusive relationship, are they being loving to that person just because they've committed to being in an unconditionally loving marriage? No, that's not very loving. If people are being hateful towards the LGBTQ community, because we had this lady who came in at the office, and she definitely has some sort of mental illness that's prominent. And I learned later that she had verbally kind of assaulted one of the associate pastors there, who happens to be gay, and he's married to a lovely man. And Sarah, which is my boss, was reminding me that that language that she said is not loving, and that we must be loving towards her, but we have to create boundaries because of the fact that what she said hurts people, and that's not loving. It's not unloving of us to create boundaries with people who are potentially hurtful. And so in all of that, I really appreciated my conversation with her, because it put in perspective this idea of love is not just this patient and kind and everlasting and humble thing, but love is so much more than we think. It is self-sacrificing. But if love is toxic, is it love? If it's toxic, is love something that we have to give to the point that we're depleted? Do we give so much of ourselves just because we're trying to be loving, and then we have nothing to give ourselves? I am relearning boundaries and relearning the things that I feel are very important to life and to myself. And I feel it's been hard for me to let go of certain people, because I've been trying to be loving and being caring. But we have to remember to put up boundaries with those that we have had problems with. And like I said in other videos, that I think you have to be forgiving and learn to forgive. But just because you forgive someone doesn't mean that they have to continue to be in your life. Just because you have settled what's going on with you and the trauma between you and a person, or with a group with people, or an organization, which is a group of people. Usually an organization is formed by a group of people and it has a common cause to help a certain group of people. If that is toxic to you, then you have to learn to love yourself and maybe cut off those people as long as you can, unless you know how to deal with that in ways that are not going to be toxic to you. So I found these thoughts very interesting, and I'm going to do another video right now on something Jordan Peterson said about the climate, and I'm really excited to talk about that, and I wish everyone who watched that. It's about poverty and the climate. But even in regards to love and the climate, I think that a lot of people are not even fighting the major injustices in our society because of this lack of love, because they don't know how to love something else because they don't love themselves. So